Good evening, viewers. You're watching India Today. I'm Preeti Chaudhary. A special broadcast with Maria and I over the course of the next 45 minutes are going to bring you two big stories that are unfolding as we speak. Number one, the disconcerting news that is coming in from across the border in Nepal. Complete anarchy on the streets of Nepal. Political chaos grips Nepal right now. What's going to come of that? We're going to get you more, delve deeper into that. And the other big story, Maria, that we're going to look at very cleanly. Back home, well, in just about an hour, we're all set to have the 14th Vice President of the country.
Yes, Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan, who is at present at Prahlad Joshi's residence. We'll get details of what he is up to and when is Prime Minister Modi going to visit him. And those visuals will perhaps send a clear message of how the events will be playing out in the Rajya Sabha. And did the NDA actually come up with some surprises in these vice presidential elections? That's also our second story at this hour. But first up, the headlines. Chaos prevails on the streets in Nepal. Prime Minister KP Oli resigns from post. The president resigns as well. Protesters take out victory march in Kathmandu. Nepalese parliament and presidential palace set ablaze. Several ministers targeted.
Back home, Ministry of External Affairs asks Indians to defer travelling to Nepal, issue helpline numbers for Indians stranded in Nepal. MEA asks them to stay indoors and exercise extreme caution.
And counting begins in the vice presidential elections. About 97% of MPs cast their votes. All eyes are on who will be the next vice president of India.
Prime Minister's aerial survey of floods-affected regions in Himachal Pradesh and Punjab. Prime Minister Modi also reviews relief efforts in both states and meets families of flood victims in Himachal.
And in India today, South Conclave, Deputy Chief Minister of Karnataka, D.K. Shiv Kumar, makes a claim. He says Dharamsthala case is an internal squabble between BJP and the RSS.
It is an internal squabbling between the BJP and the RSS. I'm on record, 100% I'm record. If you want, I will give the documentation, I will give the statements, I will give the speeches of then the BJP president, the RSS leaders, all of them.
All right, viewers, on to our top story from Nepal. The escalation of violence against political figures, political institutions, private institutions has clearly taken a very dangerous turn. The situation on ground remains very grim in Nepal. The Nepal Army Chief is going to brief the nation shortly because, Maria, with the sequence of events, the Prime Minister has resigned, the President has resigned, all the cabinet ministers have stepped down, and now there's open anarchy with political leaders, their families being attacked. The wife of a former Prime Minister burnt to death.
Former Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba and his wife targeted as well. Arjun Rana Deuba was the country's foreign minister. She was attacked by the protesters. In fact, what we can also tell our viewers is that the president of Nepal, President Paudel, resigned as well. Jhalanthan Thanel's wife was set ablaze and she passed away. A large number of protesters have gathered also outside the Tribhuvan airport, that is the international airport in Kathmandu. Now the army is in charge of Nepal is the message that is coming in, even as the protest has taken a violent turn.
All right, viewers, because this is disconcerting and worrying because there's already an advisory that has been issued by India to not to travel to Kathmandu, and if you're there, then be indoors. Because the word right now coming in, Maria, is disturbing. that protesters have now gathered in large numbers right outside Kathmandu airport. Just a short while ago, we had connected to those very worried passengers who are stranded, Indian nationals stranded on the airports, where all operations have been stalled interimly, and they've been asked to leave the airport because they fear that the Kathmandu airport can come under attack. We don't want to sound sensational here, but right now the word coming in is that at the Kathmandu airport, the army has stopped protesters from coming in inside. Let's try and get a word in from Pankaj Das, who's joining us from Kathmandu, Nepal, for more. Pankaj, you know, there are a lot of people, a lot of Indian nationals, as I speak, who are stuck at the Kathmandu International Airport, very, very worried, trying to connect with us because they've been told to leave the airport. Outside is a huge mob, which is gathered there wanting to get inside. What's the latest that you're getting?
अभी वहां एक बड़ी भारी संख्या में प्रदर्शनकारी जो है जो काठमांडू एयरपोर्ट के गेट तक पहुंच चुके हैं, लेकिन सेना ने उन्हें रोक के रखा हुआ। सेना ने अपनी पूरी ताकत लगा दी है कि कम से कम एयरपोर्ट पर कुछ भी इस तरह का दुर्घटना न हो जिसके कारण ये जो है स्थिति और अधिक बिगड़ जाए। तो सेना ने एयरपोर्ट पर कमान संभाल लिया है और प्रदर्शनकारियों की संख्या बहुत अधिक होने के बावजूद उन्हें रोक के रखा हुआ है। चारों तरफ से एयरपोर्ट को जो है वो सील कर दिया गया है, सुरक्षा के कड़े इंतजाम कर दिए गए। सेना की अतिरिक्त टुकड़ी भी एयरपोर्ट पर भेज दी गई है, क्योंकि जो वहां पे एयरपोर्ट पर ही नेपाल आर्मी का जो फ्लाइंग कई सारे उनके हेलीकॉप्टर्स, कई सारे उनके चॉपर्स वहां पर मौजूद हैं, उनके स्काई ट्रक मौजूद है। वहां पे आर्मी का एक बहुत बड़ा वहां पे उनके इक्विपमेंट्स सब वहां पे हैं, तो उनकी भी सुरक्षा करना और साथ में जो पैसेंजर अभी वहां पे फंसे हुए हैं उनकी भी सुरक्षा करना उनकी जिम्मेदारी बनती है। तो बाकी शहरों में तो कहीं पर भी कुछ भी कंट्रोल होता हुआ नहीं दिख रहा है, लेकिन कम से कम एयरपोर्ट भी सिक्योर हो जाए, तो जो वहाँ विमान है कहीं उनमें भी कुछ आगजनी इस तरह की बात न हो जाए जिससे बहुत बड़ा नुकसान हो सकता है।
जो त्रिभुवन इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट है वो अभी किसके कंट्रोल में है? क्या आर्मी उसको गाइड कर रही है, वो गार्ड कर रही है?
बिल्कुल, आर्मी ने अपने कंट्रोल में ले लिया है त्रिभुवन इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट को। उसकी पूरी सुरक्षा आर्मी ने अपने हाथों में ले लिया है। हालांकि वहां पर जो है आर्म पुलिस फोर्स भी थे, लेकिन उन सब ने हाथ खड़े कर दिए। अभी गेट पर प्रदर्शनकारियों को रोकने का काम जो है वो आर्मी की तरफ से किया जा रहा है और उनको लग रहा है कि एक भी प्रदर्शनकारी भीतर न घुस पाए, नहीं तो बहुत बड़ी क्षति हो जाएगी एयरपोर्ट में अगर प्रदर्शनकारी घुस गए तो। क्योंकि जिस तरह से काठमांडू के दूसरे जगह में हिंसा की खबरें आ रही है, अगर एयरपोर्ट में हो गया तो एक बहुत बड़ी दुर्घटना हो
क्या
जाएगी।
कितना प्रोटेस्टर्स बहुत ज्यादा तादाद में बाहर हैं जो अंदर आने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं अभी?
हजारों की संख्या में। उन्हें क्या डर है कि सारे जो मंत्री हैं जिनको सेना के हेलीकॉप्टर से मंत्री क्वार्टर से निकाला गया, उन सबको एयरपोर्ट पर ही रखा गया है और प्रदर्शनकारियों को कहीं न कहीं आशंका है कि प्रधानमंत्री भी
हम आपके पास फिर से आएंगे। शाश्वत इज अ प्रोटेस्टर, ही इज जॉइनिंग अस फ्रॉम काठमांडू। शाश्वत, the situation there is certainly worrying. The question is this what the Gen Z wanted? The revolution that you were asking for and aiming for, is this the goal?
No, absolutely not. I see outside of my house, I see my hometown being covered with smoke, and I hate to think that it will be an omen for what's coming tomorrow. This really is troubling
It's
me.
troubling you, but do you fear your protest has been taken over by unwanted elements? It's been infiltrated politically. Is that what you fear?
So I was one of the voices who raised concerns over the social media ban and corruption, the rampant corruption going on in this country, which led to the September 8th protest. Our agenda was very simple, to lift the bans, to ensure freedom of speech is protected, to ensure the anti-corruption authorities are empowered enough. But this has completely this has gone to a very dangerous level right now, and I'm genuinely worried to see what is happening outside in the media, in the news. Our agenda was very simple. We wanted to negotiate with the government, not to topple it down undemocratically, frankly, and to incite riots and to burn the buildings that we paid for. This is completely absurd to me that this has
One of the
happened.
most disturbing news which has come in just few hours ago is the death of Jhalanath Khanal's wife, She has passed away. She was a spouse of a former prime minister. He was the chairman of the Communist Party of Nepal. Then former Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deoba has been targeted. His wife has been attacked as well. What kind of protest is this? If it is about anti-establishment or anti-government, the government is no longer there in Nepal. The Prime Minister has resigned already. Isn't that what your aim was? You wanted the government to be toppled. That has been achieved. Why target former prime ministers and their family members?
Our aim was to lift the ban on social media, to ensure anti-corruption establishments are empowered. The government decided to kill us on September 8th, which is why our aim shifted to now toppling down the government and bringing those murderers to justice. However, people outside of our group, people with various interests in their hands, certainly have influenced this protest,
Right.
and basically, yes, they have
One quick
influenced the
question
mass.
before we are going to let you go. Because, like you said, this protest was organic. Many like you had joined it in the spirit of free speech and today are disturbed by what you're seeing outside. What is it that the lot of you, the Gen Z, because clearly the power of the people, the power
Yes.
of Gen Z was huge, which escalated this entire crisis in Nepal. And now it's disturbing, it's violent, it's insidious. What is the lot of you who are going to come together and do to try and assuage the situation that is taking place in your own country? It's practically burning right now. Are you planning on something? Is there something that you're looking at, banding together to maybe stop this anarchy?
We're sending in teams. We're monitoring the buildings which have been set ablaze by the protesters. We are trying to coordinate. Our team is entirely in the field. I'm staying in my home, trying to monitor all the activities.
Is there a
helping the
name
police.
that you have that you want to take control, that you want that person to take control, to step
Yes.
into the shoes of the former Prime Minister Oli? Is there a name that you have? That this is the person, he should take control?
I do not. I do not have any names. I think the public should decide in a snap election that should be called immediately.
So you are demanding a snap election. That's one of the
Absolutely.
demands, as we have been saying, that these are multiple groups. These are motley
Yes.
group of individuals who have all come together in the name of Gen Z protesters in Nepal. Thank you for joining us, Shaswat. We have Ambassador Manjeev Singh Puri also joining us, Indian ambassador, former Indian ambassador to Nepal. Ambassador Puri, how are you looking at these developments in the neighborhood? Okay, we'll try and connect with Ambassador Puri in just a bit, but Preeti, very, very concerning visuals coming in, even as reports are suggesting that there is a group of Gen Z protesters who are demanding that the present mayor of Kathmandu should take charge. There are a number of them who have put up that request, that former rapper who is now the mayor of Kathmandu, someone who's seen as more acceptable. He is also, in fact, Ambassador Puri is back with us. Ambassador Puri, how do you look at these developments that are taking place in Nepal? Ambassador, if you heard me.
I can hear you very clearly. What's the question, please? Thank you.
Yes, sir, my question is, how do you look at the developments which are taking place in Nepal?
Well, thank you very much, Maria. I want to tell you, these have to be looked at seriously. What has happened, and as you asked the questions, has the mob gone really out of control? Yes, these are all serious matters. But on the other hand, let's just look at it. It's a situation of people taking things in their own hand, in a sense, a very, let me say, an element of violence in democracy, which is happening there. Because what was happening in Nepal, we need to understand that. You had the two principal parties in the parliament joined together in a combination, which meant that two-thirds of parliament was in the government. And so, what did you have in terms of opposition and the ability to vent from the sources of the parliament itself? That became problematic. Now, over years, Nepal has had a major issue in terms of its economics. The young feel frustrated. There's nothing much happening in terms of jobs. And the top people in the establishment were, in a sense, rotating the prime minister's chairs among themselves and really not giving any space. Another very important point for Indian viewers is the issue that Nepal is a very globalized country and a country where people are quite empowered as a result of the fact that about 25% of the population is overseas, and I'm not including India. They're all over the world, in the West, in Australia, in Singapore. Nepal's remittance to GDP ratio is among the 5 highest in the world. And so the connectivity with the world has changed people's aspirations, has changed the way people think, and the young
Right.
are really feeling that, rent-seeking politics, no, that's not acceptable to them. They don't have an answer, but their frustrations is what they are venting. And the
Right.
social media ban was the thin edge of the wedge. It went over. It was badly mishandled. The police opened fire on
Right.
on
But Ambassador
crowd.
Puri, to look at the larger perspective on from where India stands, there seems to be a playbook to all of this. We saw very similar visuals, very similar, exactly the same scenes play out in Bangladesh just about 7-8 months ago. Right before a year and a half ago, we saw exactly the same playbook, where Sri Lanka was concerned. Our bordering countries, all of them in turmoil with very, very similar circumstances. How should India view this?
Uh, Maria, I don't think we should make these comparisons in this sort of a manner that you are doing. This is a case of democracy in a sense with a greater degree of vibrancy and governments which were rent-seeking to the core. That's exactly what happened in Sri Lanka. The government out there was exactly in the same way. The same thing happened in Nepal here. Bangladesh is quite a different thing with lots of interplays which were taking place out there. Look, what has happened in Sri Lanka. Please see what happened after the mob was allowed to vent its anger and so on. Go back to politics. Things are happening in various ways. I personally believe that the Nepalese, who struggled for democracy over years and years, and finally monarchy was replaced about 20 odd years back, the ideas of democracy are pretty importantly embedded there. Yes, the way this has happened, these mob attacks, etc., certainly not acceptable. But I also think that, like Sri Lanka, and that's the parallel to look at, the army is sort of standing at the back. It has the abilities, it's moved leaders to safe locations, it has the abilities, it's allowing a certain amount of vent. And I hope that by tomorrow, elements of the political process will start. You can see Balan Shah, the mayor himself, saying, who people say is a beneficiary of all this, telling people, now let's calm it. We've got a degree of accountability. The chief head, that of the prime minister, has rolled. We're very sorry. We are listening to you. We'll show empathy. We will be with you. And let's try and take things forward because it's our country. We need to build it together.
But Ambassador Puri, the larger question is about the interim government. As you spoke about Balan Shah, of course, one of the most popular faces because Time magazine had named him among the top 100 emerging leaders of the world as well. How should India be viewing this, particularly after the experience with Muhammad Yunus?
Look, this has nothing to do with Muhammad Yunus in Bangladesh. Let's leave that out. Let me tell you, the larger question is democracy in Nepal surviving, our links with the people in Nepal surviving, and our economic links. This is a country with which we have civilizational links, and I don't see those being disrupted. Let's look at the hand that you always talk at the Chinese. Are they happy at the only government being dismissed? They can't be. Who is it? In a sense, if I may use this expression, Nepal has seen globalization in a manner much more than we who had 197 years of colonization. And with this rapid globalization, you had the Western ideas, etc., come in. In a sense, perhaps woke is playing out in Nepal. Woke has become out of fashion in the countries where it began. That's the nature of it. For us, as long as we continue to have our good relations with the people and with the governments, whoever comes in power, and I have no doubt everyone will see the good sense in a good relationship with India because we matter economically, we matter for the people, and we are that great civilizational link with Nepal.
All right, appreciate you joining us, Ambassador Puri. Thank you there for giving us your time. Viewers, but I just want to go back to the ground situation in Nepal. It doesn't look good at all. Right now, there are large numbers that have gathered right outside the international airport in Kathmandu wanting to get inside. The army has taken over the airport. All operations at the airport have been stalled. And now it's an eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation where the Nepalese army is concerned and the protesters. And mind you, the protesters are no longer what one had thought that they were, which was a huge part of Gen Z protesting, a social media ban. All of that now pales in comparison of what is clearly an insidious plot, not just to dislodge an incumbent government, but also to vent out ire in the most sinister of fashion, with political leaderships being attacked violently. All right. Thousands of Nepal's youth have taken to the streets for 2 consecutive days, defying curfew, but terrifying visuals, Maria, coming to light.
Absolutely, very, very disturbing there. And they have sacrificed their young lives for a clean change. Remember, it has been triggered by social media ban. This youth protest that is raging across the Himalayan country is deep-rooted in frustration over lack of economic growth, nepotism, and corruption. Here's a quick wrap-up of this story of why is Nepal witnessing these historic protests.
Nepal is burning. The government has collapsed. But protests continue. They're young and they're angry because they have seen Nepal rot for years.
I'm here to protest about corruption. The country has gotten so bad that for us youth, there is no grounds for us to stay back in the country. We were here to participate in the peaceful rally to seek improvement in the country, but the police and the administration decided to get violent and shoot first with tear gas and then with bullets. Our demand and desire is for peace and end to corruption so that the people can actually work and live back in the country. We will work to continue putting pressure on the government.
Nepal, a Himalayan country of 30 million people, is known for its turbulent politics. It has seen more than a dozen governments since it transitioned to a republic after abolishing its 239-year-old monarchy in 2008. And that too came after a decade-long civil war. Even then, this protest is the worst unrest in decades.
I don't think this is a fight about monarchy or anything. This is rather a fight against corrupted system. We want directly elected PM and an interim government. That is the actual want from our country. It is an anti-corruption movement without any other vested interest towards monarchy, any other inclination towards monarchy. It might have started from the social media ban, but that was not the major issue. It was rather the corruption that has been going on, and people are frustrated with it. The last straw was the social media ban, where people felt their voices were oppressed.
These protests, the organizers claim, are a reflection of generational frustration at poor economic opportunities in the Himalayan country. A World Bank report shows that the unemployment rate for youth aged 15 to 24 in Nepal was 20.8% in 2024. Nepal's economy is heavily reliant on remittance money sent by Nepalis living abroad. More than a third, that is 33.1% of Nepal's GDP, came from personal remittances. And that number has been on a steady rise over the past 3 decades. As people in general battled with the economy, a viral online movement against Nepo kids, politicians' children, showing off their lavish lifestyles fueled further anger among people.
September 8.
The last nail in the coffin was the government's 4th September decision to block 26 social media platforms, including Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, X, and YouTube. About 24 social network platforms widely used in Nepal were repeatedly given notices to register their companies officially in the country. They were asked to appoint grievance handlers and remove flagged content. Only 5 companies, including TikTok and Viber, complied with the order, and when the others failed, they were blocked in the first week of September. Social media has been the platform for protest and all protest organizations since the last 2 decades. KP Sharma Oli miscalculated its power, and banning it led to complete chaos in Nepal. Bureau Report, India Today.
Because after attacking political leadership, after attacking political institutions, private institutions, the protesters have turned their ire to airports right now. While an eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation continues at the Tribhuvan airport, international airport in Kathmandu, latest visuals coming in. Protesters have set vehicles on fire just outside the Gautam Buddha International Airport in Bhairava, Nepal.
And Bhairava, just for the benefit of our viewers, is roughly around 4 hours, which is around 192 kilometers from Kathmandu, and that is the distance between the two cities. And that is the second international airport. So after the entire chaos is playing out at the Tribhuvan airport, there is Gautam Buddha airport in Bhairava now being targeted by the protesters. So let's bring in our guest now, Preeti.
Well, we're going to just quickly cut across to these visuals that you see of arson, viewers, Anarchy arson, now not just limited to Kathmandu but across Nepal. International Airport, Bhairava, right outside, visuals coming in, vehicles being set on fire, arson reported, violence reported, complete anarchy being reported. I want to cut across to advocate who's joining us from Kathmandu, Arun Gavli with us. Arun, would you give us a sense of what is really happening on ground right now? Because repeatedly we are being joined by protesters, the youth that were part till yesterday. Now they are saying that this is not us. Somebody has or elements have completely hijacked and taken over our protest. All right, we don't have Arun with us, but viewers, these visuals are disconcerting because, Maria, what clearly is now happening, because nobody is quite in control. The army has taken over airports. There is a pushback. But after yesterday's carnage where 22 youth were killed when the army and the police had opened fire, the army now in restraint. And all right, let's quickly cut across right now. There is a press conference.
By the Election Commission.
By the Election Commission. Okay.
In all, 68 nomination papers were received till the last date for submission of nomination papers. After scrutiny, nomination papers filed by Shri Bucci Reddy Sudarshan Reddy and Shri C.P. Radhakrishnan were found valid. As you are aware, in the vice presidential election, all members of parliament, including the nominated members, are eligible to cast their votes. There are 788 electors, 245 from Rajya Sabha and 543 from Lok Sabha. There are 6 vacancies in Rajya Sabha and 1 vacancy in Lok Sabha. Thus, there are 781 electors. The polling for the vice presidential election 2025, which commenced at 10 a.m. today, the 9th of September 2025, in room number F101 Vasudha, first floor, Parliament House, New Delhi, closed at 5 p.m. Out of the 781 electors, 767 electors cast their votes before closure of the poll, that is 5 p.m. The total elector turnout was accordingly 98.2%. Only 1 ballot box was used for the poll, which was sealed immediately after the close of poll at 5 p.m. in the presence of the authorized representatives of the contesting candidates and election observers. The counting of votes commenced at 6 p.m. The ballot box was opened in the presence of the authorized representatives of the contesting candidates, election observers, and the counting officers, whom I had appointed to assist me in counting of votes. The ballot papers taken out were first scrutinized. The valid and invalid ballot papers and 1 postal ballot paper was also received, were segregated, and the valid ballot papers were distributed according to the first preference vote secured by each candidate. The postal ballot has been treated as returned and cancelled, as the elector declined to cast his vote. 767 votes were polled, out of which 752 were valid and 15 were invalid. The quota sufficient to get a candidate elected as vice president was determined by dividing the total number of first preference votes secured by both the candidates by 2 and then adding 1 to the quotient. The said quota was 377. As all of you are aware, the value of votes for the presidential election is 1. Shri Buchi Reddy Sudarshan Reddy has secured 300 first preference votes and Shri C.P. Radhakrishnan has secured 452 first preference votes. As the first preference vote secured by Shri C.P. Radhakrishnan was greater than the requisite quota, in pursuance of provisions contained in Section 11 of the Presidential and Vice Presidential Elections Act 1952, 31 of 1952, read with Rule 35 of the Presidential and Vice Presidential Election Rules 1974, I, P.C. Modi, the returning officer for the Vice Presidential Election 2025, hereby declare that Shri C.P. Radhakrishnan, Jal Bhushan, Raj Bhavan, Walkeshwar Road, Malabar Hill, Mumbai, has been duly elected to the office of Vice President of India. The result is being sent to the Election Commission of India and the Ministry of Law and Justice as per the extant provisions under Section 12 of the Presidential and Vice Presidential Election Act 1952 and Rule 35 of the Presidential and Vice Presidential Election Rules 1974. Overall, the 17th Vice Presidential election was conducted in a free, fair and orderly manner. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the candidates and their authorized representatives for their cooperation, which facilitated early completion of the proceedings. Thank you. आप चाहते हैं पूरा पढ़ूं या सिर्फ श्री बुच्ची रेड्डी सुदर्शन रेड्डी को एक सेकंड
राधाकृष्णन जी को 452
श्री बुच्ची रेड्डी सुदर्शन रेड्डी को 300 प्रथम वरीयता के मत प्राप्त हुए और श्री सीपी राधाकृष्णन को 452 प्रथम वरीयता के मत प्राप्त हुए। चूंकि श्री सीपी राधाकृष्णन को अपेक्षित कोटे से अधिक वरीयता के मत प्राप्त हुए, इसलिए राष्ट्रपतीय और उपराष्ट्रपतीय निर्वाचन नियम 1974 के नियम 35 के साथ पठित राष्ट्रपतीय और उपराष्ट्रपतीय निर्वाचन अधिनियम 1952।
All right,
Yes, so that is the Secretary General of the Rajya Sabha, who is the returning officer of these elections, making that announcement that C.P. Radhakrishnan, the former governor of Maharashtra, will be now the next Vice President of India. In fact, he got 452 first preference vote. The candidate, the India bloc candidate, that is Justice Reddy, got 300 votes out of 752 votes which were cast. In fact, 767 votes in all were cast in these elections. 752 were declared valid. There were 15 votes still invalid despite all the training that was given to MPs. So it's very clear now. He is a seasoned BJP leader from Tamil Nadu. C.P. Radhakrishnan was the state BJP president from 2004 to 2007. Former member of parliament from Coimbatore is the next vice president of India. His primary responsibility is conducting the proceedings of the Rajya Sabha. Let me bring in Aishwarya Paliwal. So the NDA gets its numbers right, Aishwarya. 452 is what you told us an hour ago, and that is the number which has been announced by the Secretary General, Mr. Pramod Chandra Modi.
Maria, just give it a little more time, and from what we are understanding at the moment, we will have certain votes which will be the cross voting, because this is what we are understanding at the moment.
Right.
Close to 4 to 5 votes are the cross voting votes. Who were those people? Who were those parties? We will have to wait and watch. But yes, the numbers were clearly in favor of NDA, and that is exactly the figure that has now come out. The opposition, Maria, if you also remember, since day one has been speaking about the fact that this is an ideological war that they have been fighting. They have been speaking about the fact that they do not have the deputy Lok Sabha speaker position, and that's the reason also, which gave them a fillip to fight this harder. They really did fight it, and now the opposition will be saying that it is a moral victory. We also saw Jairam Ramesh's tweet just a couple of hours ago, immediately after all the opposition MPs had voted, that this is a moral victory for the opposition.
How is it this? That's the point. How is this a moral victory? And I'm going to just come to it because that's the big news that we're breaking right now. 7:31, the results of the vice president election has been announced, and India has its new vice president in the form of C.P. Radhakrishnan. C.P. Radhakrishnan is the new vice president and the chair of the Rajya Sabha. The opposition might claim moral victory, but is it a moral victory? Because the devil will be in the detail. 452 are the votes that have gone in favor of C.P. Radhakrishnan, while 300 to Sudarshan Reddy. That's a margin of 152 votes, by which you have the winner in C.P. Radhakrishnan. Is that a big margin? Well, not quite so. Many would say it's a narrow margin, keeping in mind what happened the last time around when Margaret Alva faced off with Jagdeep Dhankar, where the margin was over about 350 votes. But this time around, it's 152. But has there been cross-voting, especially from the opposition camp? Of course. Even if you discount those 15 invalid votes, have they all come in from the opposition camp? Because you had Jairam Ramesh, and I want to bring in my colleague Piyush to come in on this. Because Piyush, Jairam Ramesh had tweeted out that 315 votes have been polled in from the opposition, and they are confident of getting the 315 votes. Having said that, you had PC Modi, the presiding returning officer, who has given out the number of 300 coming in for the opposition. So that's 15 short. So either all the 15 invalid votes have gone in from the opposition's vote bank, or there has definitely been cross-voting from the opposition's camp. So either there is a Trojan horse, or 15 members of the opposition weren't paying enough attention yesterday when there were a workshop being conducted on how to actually put in your ballot for the vice president election. What are you picking up?
Well, that's right. Allegation coming in from opposition in Preeti, where they are saying that vote chori has happened, and they are saying that they were confident of getting 315 numbers in their kitty, but the opposition candidate...
Vote chori on how, Piyush?
300 votes.
Vote chori for the vice presidential polls.
Who is saying vote chori?
Well, that's what the Jairam Ramesh claims to be. That's a big claim which he's making. He's saying that we were supposed to get 315, in our kitty, but we have got 300. But look at the press conference which has been done by PC Modi. He's clarifying that 15 votes have turned invalid because of the processes which were not followed. But before I answer more, let me try to also show you pictures from right outside the Prahlad Joshi's residence, which is also the election office.
That's where the celebration center is.
The celebrations have broken out here.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, yes, celebrations have broken out. We can also hear the drum voices here at the entry gate. We are now seeing celebrations breaking out. A few people are also seen dancing. We'll have to shift to the other vantage point to show you more pictures. Because
All right, so the drums are beating outside Prahlad Joshi's residence. That's where C.P. Radhakrishnan is presiding. You change your location there. We're going to come right back to you. But I want to bring in Aishwarya as well. And Amitabh Tiwari, political analyst, is also with us, Maria. But first up, Dr. Manisha Priyam, political analyst, Sumansi Raman, political analyst, all of them joining us. But Aishwarya, I'll come to you on this. Because Jairam Ramesh, right before the counting was to start, had proclaimed 100% voting from the opposition camp. He touted the figure, given the figure of 315. Now, there are only two possibilities. Either cross-voting from the opposition camp, there's a Trojan horse there, or horses there, or all 15 invalid votes have come in from the opposition, something which the opposition will have to look into, because On the other hand, the BJP's got exactly the ones that they wanted, or rather they've done better than what they had anticipated.
Well, definitely,
Which is the
Preeti.
NDA.
427, you know, Preeti, that was the number that the NDA was looking at. The real number is 452, which means that we are seeing an increase there. 300, that is what, you know, we just heard. That's the votes that the opposition candidate had got. Jairam Ramesh in his tweet very clearly spelled out the number. He said 315. So what happened to these 15 votes? So we'll have to wait and watch. The next couple of hours will clear it. But yes, there is a possibility, a high possibility, Preeti, that we can see you know, chances of cross-voting also coming out, if not a lot, at least 7 to 8 cases where the cross-voting might have happened. The opposition obviously will now have to dig deeper, look harder and see what exactly happened. But they, Preeti, just a couple of hours ago, have already said that this is a moral victory for them.
Yes, besides the moral victory, although Preeti and I will try and evaluate as to how this is a moral victory, give us a sense of what BJP has planned, because sources are indicating to us now, Aishwarya, that the Prime Minister is expected to visit Prahlad Joshi's residence. That's where the next Vice President has been staying for the last couple of months.
Well, you know, this will be a big boost, Maria. You know, if you remember, the one thing that the BJP had made very, very clear is that someone who understands BJP, someone who comes from the core RSS, the core Sangh ideology, that's the kind of person that they will be bringing forth. And we have someone like that, someone who has a political career of almost 40 years, someone who's been very closely associated with the RSS. So the BJP now making sure that they do not have another faux pas. So that's something that the BJP has made sure. The numbers also stacked in their favor. Those calls that were being made, the BJP had, you know, they started out by making sure that a tall, stalwart leader of the BJP like Rajnath Singh, no one less than him, you know, was being given the task of making sure that you make those calls. The BJP in celebration mode, we will see the celebrations continue.
Well, the BJP has done its job. You know, the floor management has been spot on. 427 is what the BJP said that they had. They've practically clearly gotten more than that, standing at 452. The opposition has lost 15. Where has that loss come from? Have all invalid votes only been filed by the opposition? That's a question. Or has there been cross-voting? That moral victory, Aishwarya, that you spoke of was before, you know, the numbers were announced. I am sure that the opposition is going to be wondering what happened to the 15 votes that they had polled. Were they invalid or was there cross-voting from their camp? Let's bring in Amitabh Tiwari, political strategist and commentator in all of this. Amitabh Tiwari, ultimately, you know, it was an election which was done and dusted this morning itself in favor of the NDA. But coming to the brass tacks of it, bragging rights right now with the NDA, the opposition would need to look within. Either they didn't pay enough attention yesterday when there were workshops being conducted on how to file your nomination, how to file your vote for the vice presidential elections, or clearly there are Trojan horses within. There has been cross-voting.
So clearly from day one, I think the opposition has got it wrong. One, on strategy, while choosing a forward caste candidate, while NDA has gone with an OBC candidate. Second is the outreach. We saw massive outreach by senior ministers of the NDA government, including Rajnath Singh and the Home Minister, whereas the outreach of India was not matching. Third is the floor management, as you've said. 315 MPs have polled votes. They have not got more. I don't know who AAP has voted for, because if AAP has voted for India, they should have got more. So AAP is a question.
So AAP has voted for India.
He has voted for.
AAP has voted for India. That word came in. The AAP MPs have all voted for India, both Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. They only one in Lok Sabha. Go ahead.
So if Aam Aadmi Party has voted for India bloc, then the number should be 234, which is the India number in Lok Sabha, plus 3 of Aam Aadmi Party in Lok Sabha, 237, plus 77 of India bloc in Rajya Sabha, and plus 9 of Rajya Sabha members. If Aam Aadmi Party has voted for India bloc, then the number should have been 327 is what the number should have been for the India bloc. Of course, some absentees might have been there. So one is floor management, and the fourth and the last is the execution. So 15 votes have been found to be invalid. Of course, we are making an assumption that these could be from the India bloc.
It invalid
like 15 minus
Perhaps
15.
These are the invalid votes. We do not know about it. But let's welcome Manisha Priyam on this broadcast. We also have Sumansi Raman. Manisha Priyam, what do you think is the big messaging from this victory of the NDA nominee in CP Radhakrishnan?
So I'm talking from the citizens' perspective today. The big lesson is that on day one of the parliament session, an erstwhile vice president nominated and put in place by the BJP was shooed out or exited for health reasons. And now an election has been forced on us. And now this is being called a victory. Yes, he has 452 votes, and the other part has 300 votes. Now, for 15 missing, if you think we will sermonize the opposition, I don't think that's the lesson. And I don't think there is any citizen,
But
rivalry
Manisha
about the
ji, not
victory.
sermonizing the opposition, journalistic
No,
inquisition,
15
ma'am.
votes
Preeti here.
missing. Let's sermonize
Ma'am,
that they didn't know how
journalistic.
to vote.
No, ma'am,
And who
journalistic
was missing in
inquisition.
the classroom? Yes, yes.
No, no, a
If you sit in
journalistic
the classroom
inquisition, not
and you know
not
how to sign your
not
votes,
berating the
then you do
opposition. The
good.
question, Manisha Priyamji, can also be asked right now: were they Trojan horses? Because number one, you had Amitabh ji touch on the Aam Aadmi Party MPs, but there was a question mark as well on the Sharad Pawar faction, on the Uddhav Thackeray faction, the 3 MPs of Hemant Soren.
Yeah. So I think the first Trojan horse factor was that there was a vice president who in the morning a few people said, oh, he was plotting something against the government. So that was Trojan horse number one, kept as the vice president for so many years by this government, chairing the Rajya Sabha. Yes, Trojan horse. And these 15 must be found out. And surely holding classes for members of parliament is a very good way of bolstering electoral democracy in India. I think the most important lesson of the election today is that the BJP has gone in for a Tamil Nadu candidate. He is an RSS person. So the BJP, the NDA today has accepted the RSS as the ideological spine for the NDA alliance. On the other side, you have Mr. Sudarshan Reddy for the kind of politics that he stands for or the ideology that he stands for. So clearly, there are two ideologies. This is an ideological battle between two sets of coalitions that are ranged against each other. And by the way, citizens don't have much to talk about. It's like I give a resignation or I'm forced to resign, and then somebody else comes in place and says, oh, this is victory, this is victory. Certainly, this is victory. Who forced the vice president out? Why did he resign? For health reasons. If he resigned and left the country in the lurch in such an important session, which is the hospital where he's in? Rather than finding those 15 people, today I can tell you that this is what we really want to know. And for saying these things, I can tell you by tomorrow, the kind of things that will be heaped on us, we have decided to keep quiet. So, yes, 15 members must be found out. And yes, more trainings for MPs is the need of the hour. And those who did not attend the training session, since this is a bipartisan election, it's not on party lines. I would suggest even India members can go to the NDA organized school and learn how to vote better. That may be the road ahead for the future. That's the lesson that I see coming out.
Ma'am, you've spoken as a citizen. Let's bring in another journalist on the show now. Analyst, journalist in Sumansi Raman. Sumansi Raman, a point that was made by Manisha Priyam here was of an RSS dyed-in-the-wool leader in C.P. Radhakrishnan taking the role of as a constitutional head of an important chair of the Vice President of India. What do you think will be playing out in the upper house now? Because, many would say that Jagdeep Dhankar, his partisan role was seen as him acting at the behest of the government, and then we saw what played out when he was asked to resign.
Yeah, I think two things. One is Mr. Radhakrishnan is not the in-your-face confrontational kind of a person. As can be seen by the stints, he's had quite successful governor stints in Jharkhand and Maharashtra and briefly in Telangana as well. So he has not had a problem with opposition chief ministers, which most of the NDA government appointed governors have had big time. So I think that itself gives you an idea of where the Rajya Sabha is headed. It's going to be definitely less confrontational in the conventional sense. And what we saw with Mr. Jagdeep Dhankar was, until the last session, it was pretty, boisterous at times. Now, the second part on this is really the fact that Mr. Radhakrishnan is not a Modi, Amit Shah era BJP politician at all. He belongs to the Vajpayee era. He belongs to the RSS family, and he comes from a culture where
he has friends across political parties. In fact, he's got very few enemies. Even those who are his political opponents don't have a major problem with him. He's always been very cultured the way he has dealt with political rivals as well. So I think that, I am on record as having said that if we were to look at Mr. Modi and Mr. Amit Shah choosing a candidate to be the vice president, it's extremely unlikely that Mr. CPR would have been their first choice. So clearly, this is something which the RSS...
You're saying the RSS getting their way in. But just stay with me. Sumansi Raman, stay with me. I just want to, Maria, take our viewers through the latest tweet coming in of Jairam Ramesh, because earlier Jairam Ramesh had said 315, 100% voting. India alliance has done well. The latest tweet coming in, the opposition stood united in the vice presidential elections. Its performance has undeniably been most respectable. Its joint candidate, Justice B. Sudarshan Reddy, secured 40% of the vote. And then you have Jairam Ramesh, who juxtaposes the 2025 vice presidential elections to the 2022 vice presidential elections. At that point of time, Margaret Alva had just secured 26% of the total vote. So he puts it up against 40%, says this is a respectable moral victory. The BJP's arithmetical win is really both moral and a political defeat. The ideological battle continues undiminished. So, because there was no whip and everybody, Amitabh Tiwari was appealing to the moral conscience, Maria, or the, the MPs. But Amitabh Tiwari, moral victory, yes, but there's lots to think of. Because plus those 15 invalid votes, there has been cross-voting. Where has it really come from is something that the opposition ranks need to ponder. Even if there wasn't any whip, there has been people from their camp who have cast their ballot in that secret box for the NDA.
Yeah, essentially the NDA numbers were 427 before polls, and then you had the YSRCP 11, so 438. So they have got 14 extra votes. I think 7 or 8 independent and smaller parties are there. So we will have to see how many MPs did cross vote from the India bloc to the NDA. Of course, as I mentioned, from strategy to outreach to floor management to execution, I think the opposition could have done better. It's a moral victory of sorts. Of course, the margin is lower this time because the strength of the opposition is fairly high in the Lok Sabha after the BJP received setback in the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. But of course, they have to go back to the drawing board, think and ponder as to how election after election, the advantage which they had gained after the Lok Sabha, they have been losing the steam in Haryana, Maharashtra, then the Delhi elections, and now, of course, this election. Of course, it has been thrust on us, but an election is an election. Okay. Everybody is fighting for...
Amitabh Tiwari, we're running out of time, Maria. So that's it. C.P. Radhakrishnan is the new vice president of this country.
Absolutely, yes. So thank you for joining us, Amitabh Tiwari, Sumansi Raman and Manisha Priyam on this special broadcast. Prime Minister Modi is likely to visit and meet the next vice president around 8:30 p.m. We'll be getting you all those visuals and live updates from the residence of Prahlad Joshi. But for the moment, it's a wrap-up from Preeti and me.
All right, goodbye. Thank you for watching.